everyone, we are from YCT Technology. I'm Yang and my colleague Yu and Chengbo. We are going to talk about wearable devices used in health area, especially for people with chronic disease. Let's us go through the agenda. I will have a look of e-health history and change, then focus on the features of chronic disease and wearable devices. My colleague Yu plans to talk about the benefits about the wearable devices used in chronic disease. After that, Chengbo is going to show you challenges and outlook of this tool before conclusion. Dated back to 50 years, healthcare is definitely separated with any information technology. But today, electronic health is seen as the most important revolution in healthcare after the advent of modern medicine. It makes use of developments in computer technology and telecommunications to deliver health information and service more effectively and efficiently. As such, it requires a different and radical way of thinking about the delivery of health services. The potential of e-health has been discussed globally after 1990s, but it remains a work in progress everywhere. There are many reasons for the slow adoption of e-health in Australia. For one thing, I think it is about the limited investment and governance of health care services. For another, a lack of strict research evidence on the benefits that might drive change and the difficulty of politicians to be seen to be tampering with a politically sensitive service. Meanwhile, another reason should be considered as the cost and the complexity associated with the e-health implementation. In Australia now, e-health holds great potential in many areas, such as resolving the remote care or reducing the costs associated with caring for an aging population. Let's move to chronic disease. This is about a disease that persisted for a long time. It is always lasting 3 months or more. It can be regarded as a chronic disease. Chronic disease have a range of potential impacts on a person's individual circumstances, including quality of life and the broader social and economic effects. Diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, asthma. These 4 diseases can be seen as chronic ones. It is significant to be responsible for your health and manage this condition to lead a fulfilling life. The new e-health, while using wearable device, can track patients' data in order to reduce the risk. As we can see that there are 3 pictures showing how big influence for chronic disease around health area. You can see in the left one, it means that every $4 spent in medical care, 3 out of $4 is from chronic disease parts. The middle pie chart, that 25% means about 25% of people with a chronic disease have some type of activity restriction. For example, maybe it's mobility, or personal care, or work or schooling. The last picture is that right one. It's easily to get the idea that chronic disease causes 7 out of every 10 deaths. For the wearable device, wearable devices are another important part to track patient conditions. Today, In health area, wearable devices have expanded from hearing aids to everything from heartbeat monitors to pain management. There are many popular wearable devices used in health area, and we just pick the four of them. Firstly, let's have a look about the Health Patch MD. It is a biosensor developing to measure and track a patient's heart rate, skin temperature, and body posture. It includes fall detection and can be used in a hospital, at school, or at an outpatient facility. The second one is called Freestyle Library Flash Glucose Monitoring System. It is a healthcare company called Albert designed this wearable continuous glucose monitoring system for people who has the diabetes. This device seeks to replace the need for users to rely on blood glucose meters. The system has received regulatory approval to be sold in Europe and India. Another one is called RoxXC Patch. It is aimed to detect abnormal heart activity over an extended period of time. These wearable electronic patches are water resistant and can be worn continuously around the clock for 2 weeks. Oh, it's actually a long time. The data that is collected by the patch is then transmitted to special clinical app, which rely on special method to dig into the results. The last wearable device we talk here is called REST-OX2. It is a pulse oximeter that handles such tasks as monitoring and measuring users' heart rate and blood oxygen level. This wearable medical device is targeted towards people who have asthma and are at risk of congestive heart failure and chronic obstructive disease. The device can be used in the hospital and when the patient goes home to allow remote and extend monitoring of their heart rate and oxygenation. Then I will hand over to my colleague Yu. He will introduce the benefits of wearable devices used in chronic disease area.
I'm Yu. In this section, let's talk about the benefits of wearable devices for chronic illness. Today, a chronic disease is a major factor affecting the quality of life of many people and the cost of health care. The treatment of chronic disease changed dramatically in the last 2 decades, since new patient management approaches have been introduced based on the continuous telemonitoring. The new approaches are cost-effective and provide the doctors with more accurate and reliable data. However, issues such as efficiency, data processing, and decision-making must be addressed. Chronic diseases account for 7 out of 10 deaths in the United States, as well as 85% of healthcare dollars spent each year. Wearable devices that would monitor a patient and could potentially minimize the costs of chronic disease. To what extent can wearables play a role in tackling chronic illness? Chronic disease management and primary prevention are clearly the area where wearables have a big role. As we mentioned, the wearables are designed to provide a daily detection of some disease, such as heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, and asthma. Now, let's look at how this disease trouble Australians and how many people will get benefits from this technology. For instance, think about management of diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and some similar conditions. Firstly, for heart disease, based on a statistics from an Australian NPO called Heart Foundation, each year there are around 56,000 Australians suffering a heart attack. Equally, there is one heart attack every 9 minutes. Then, how many lives do heart attacks claim in Australia? It is estimated that every 57 minutes a man died of heart attack in Australia, and 1 in 4 people who died from a heart attack died within the first hour of their first semesters. For heart diseases in general, people are quite often advised to use heart rate monitors for exercise to help manage the condition. With the wearable devices, patients and their doctors can know the heart rates and some other physical conditions. This is very helpful to let doctors know the daily conditions of patients and present some relevant advices to the target patients. And the patients improve their self-management of the illness. A further instance, around 8% of United States population suffers from asthma, and the disease contributes to emergency room visits and missed days of school and work. Although an assumer self-management plan can control the symptoms of asthma and prevent attacks, about 75% of patients do not follow this plan due to either a lack of education about planning or non-compliance. There is a wearable assumer monitoring device that is stuck to a patient's chest and records their breathing sounds. The breathing can detect if a patient begins breathing and will send notifications to their smartphone if they need to make changes to their self-management plan or take medication. Another instance is that activity trackers are already used quite widely in diabetes management. Of course, blood glucose meters are also available, but they are not wearables as such. These are more like pocket devices. In addition, wearables carry the twin potential of improving workplace health as well as improving productivity. These are attractive objectives for governance, public health services, and employers alike from a time, cost, and resourcing perspective. Wearables used in the workplace at this stage have primarily been geared to improve productivity. Employees with good physical condition are usually more productive because they are in better health. Furthermore, in North America, the baby boom generation represents about 25% of the population, and in 2016 they will start turning 70. It's predicted that by 2030, over 60% of boomers will be living with at least one chronic condition. Healthcare providers will need to adapt to the changing needs of an aging population. But healthcare is a field that evolves slowly, demanding evidence-based biased practices preceded a widespread implementation. Thus far, advances in electronic medical record software have laid the groundwork for groundbreaking wearable biosensors. EMR systems are already increasing the number of preventive screening tests, and physicians are finding the EMR technology is helping to manage chronic illness, particularly diabetes. The advent of wearable biomonitoring technology promised to future automate these features, reducing the workload of primary physicians and reducing emergency room visits. I have to say the wearable technique is a game-changing technology. We associate taking medicine with recovering from an illness. Besides, it will continuously test and monitor your body, and throughout the whole process you don't need to stand for any pain even from blood taking. The wearable device, usually a wristband, reads these particles and could be configured to send information across internet back to a doctor. Both you and your doctor could monitor your health in a more consistent way, so you get a proactive care rather than a reactive care. Alright, next part my partner Chengbo will introduce the following part.
There are also some challenge of the wearable devices for chronic disease. First of all, the accuracy of the data. There are many wearable devices in the market. They have different way or standard of monitoring patients. The data may different when people using various devices. Furthermore, the user may misuse the device for their own purpose, for example, to comfort their relatives. Secondly, since chronic disease needs to be monitored for a really long time, the user may use it at the beginning and then give up, put it in his top drawer, and never retrieve it again. The reason might be patients cannot realize the benefits in short term, or the device make them feel uncomfortable. The most considerable issue is about privacy. Wearable devices regularly monitor, collect, and upload users' health information to the system, and the information may be shared to their doctors as well as providers. As a result, wearable devices have potential risk in people's privacy information linkage. Although most providers claimed that they won't collect or link users' information, the problem still exists. Moreover, with the development of the technology, wearable devices can monitor and gather more information, which means the privacy issues will become more significant. Nowadays, the market is crowded by many kinds of wearable devices, but it is still the early period of this innovation. With the developing of this technology and the regulation of the market, wearable devices can do more things in the future. The first thing will be support telehealthcare. With wearable health devices, it is possible for doctors to get required information of the patient. With this information, the doctor can provide health advice or diagnosis from anywhere to chronic patients. The second one is to support the research of chronic disease. Wearable devices can provide real-time information for researchers to evaluate the effects for each treatment method. To some extent, it can facilitate the process of research. The third one is it can support the integration of electronic health record. By monitoring the sufferer of a chronic disease, it can automatically record valuable health information and incidents to create a more detailed electronic health record. Also, wearable devices can co-work with other information technologies, for example, big data. By the huge amount of data collected by wearable devices, humans have the possibility to find a more effective way to treat chronic disease. To sum up, wearable devices can monitor and detect the physical conditions for the sufferer of chronic disease and reduce emergency room visits. Although there are many challenges, wearable devices have a huge potential capability for electronic healthcare. Thank you for listening.